Welcome fans to M2M coverage and our NBA panel here. We got Gabe Pickup, Edward Gion. The NBA play-in tournament is set. Yes, the playoffs are here, and this year we have a play-in tournament that LeBron expressed a lot of criticism towards. He said whoever invented that should be fired. And now LeBron finds himself in the play-in. In the Western Conference, the Lakers are the 7th seed, the Golden State Warriors are the 8th seed, the 9th seed is the Memphis Grizzlies, and the San Antonio Spurs are the 10 seed. So we knew which teams were going to be in the play-in in the West, except for we didn't know the Lakers. But now we know the exact seeding now that the NBA season has concluded. So we'll begin with predictions in the Western Conference. Gabe, who are your two teams that are making it into the playoffs as a 7 and 8 seed, and what do you see specifically happening in the game between the Warriors and the Lakers, 7 versus 8, and then Grizzlies versus Spurs?
Well, I am here to tell you that the seventh seed is going to be the Warriors, okay? Because the Lakers just played a game against the Pelicans. It was the last game of the season. It should have been the most laid back game of the entire season. The Trailblazers were winning all night. I'm sure the Lakers knew that. So they were playing LeBron, they were playing AD mostly just for reps, but LeBron and AD both left with injury. This is extremely concerning because the entire second half of the season has been LeBron and AD trying to keep themselves in the rotation, and it just hasn't been working. I like LeBron as a person. I like him as a player. I like AD as a person and a player too. And if they're completely healthy, then they can easily take the Warriors. If they have the chemistry, they can take the Warriors. I don't see either of those things happening right now. So I think the Warriors will win that game as the seventh seed. But I don't think the Lakers would lose twice in a row. They're going to be the eighth seed. There's no way that they're not going to be in the playoffs. Could you imagine the social media platforms? Like they would be going crazy if LeBron didn't make the playoffs. So that's not going to happen.
Right, and it doesn't make much sense for LeBron or AD to lose to a team like the Grizzlies or the Spurs, who are devoid of talent compared to the Lakers, definitely. And I actually see the same thing happening. I think the Warriors are very hot right now. Curry is obviously not going to go away, and Jordan Poole has been pretty good in the last couple of games. I think Steve Kerr has just been developing these players to like play good cohesive basketball, a lot of movement going, Draymond distributing. The Warriors are a fun team to watch, and I think they will beat the Lakers just because they're on a hot streak right now. Edward, what do you see happening in the Western Conference? Do you have any discrepancies between what me and Gabe said?
Um, well, as a Lakers fan, seeing the Warriors there is a pretty scary spot. Yeah, it seems like they're on a roll compared to us, but yeah, the injuries, I just checked it out. It isn't Frank Vogel just said like maybe a couple minutes ago that LeBron James seems like it's okay. But yeah, it is pretty scary when you see that. It's like the same ankle that he tweaked that caused him to miss a lot of games. Yeah, it's gonna be a tough matchup. I think that's like the one play-in tournament I see right now that I'm kind of like interested. I think that's the one, and luckily it's not televised games, which I think that's gonna be really good. Yeah, I don't. I think Memphis is going to beat the Spurs. I haven't seen the Spurs being that good, honestly, lately. I think they kind of dropped out. So like Grizzlies, whoever they face, is going to have a tough matchup. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting playing tournament in the Western Conference.
Right. And just to get Gabe's prediction on Memphis and Spurs, not to disrespect these teams, I have the Spurs winning, but then I have them losing to the Lakers in the battle for the 8th seed. But Gabe, who do you have winning Grizzlies versus Spurs?
Um, it's tough to say because both teams are very similarly built and they're kind of coach similar. Greg Popovich is obviously a much better coach, but the fundamentals of Taylor Jenkins and Greg Popovich are very similar. Um, and a lot of the players have been in both systems too. So, I mean, I guess I would say the Grizzlies will win because it seems like top to bottom, their team is more complete. Whereas the Spurs, it seems like they kind of rely on like 4 or 5 players to stay hot throughout the game. So I'll say the Grizzlies. They have a tough defense too. It's pretty underrated defense. This is going to be John Morant's second play-in format type of thing, and I think he learned a lot from last year about playing tough point guards such as Dame, and he's going to play another one in Dejounte Murray that's a defensive-minded veteran at this point. So I think that the Grizzlies are going to win. I could see it being very close, but obviously, I think whoever wins will lose to the Lakers.
Fair points all around. Let's move on to the Eastern Conference. The Boston Celtics are the 7 seed. They've received criticism because they had higher expectations, but now Jaylen Brown is out, and people are not considering them a championship threat that they did at the beginning of the season. So the Boston Celtics have been dropping. They've definitely been lower than people's expectations at the 7 seed. And surprisingly, the Washington Wizards jumped up to the 8 seed relatively quickly because they were at the 10 seed towards the end of the season. Russell Westbrook, Bradley Beal playing amazing basketball. And obviously, we know Russell Westbrook has just been absolutely balling with his breaking of the triple-double record. So the Celtics will be playing the Washington Wizards, and the winner of that will become the 7th seed. And then at 9 and 10, at the 9 seed, we have the Indiana Pacers, and 10 seed, we have the Charlotte Hornets, who dropped a little bit, but they had already clinched their playoff berth or their play-in berth a few games earlier. So we'll have Indiana versus Charlotte, 9 versus 10, playing the loser of Boston versus Washington for the 8th seed. So Gabe, I'm going to come back to you. What are your predictions regarding the Eastern Conference play-in tournament?
So for this, I guess I'll go with the 9th and 10th game first, so I don't forget it this time around and make the narrator circle back to the side piece here. But so the Hornets and the Pacers, I think it'll be no contest. I think the Hornets will beat them pretty significantly. I heard Channing Frye actually on NBA TV talking about it, and he said something that really caught my eye. He said that the Pacers don't want to play basketball right now. And it sounds pretty ridiculous to think about. You know, any team will tell you that they're going to put 100% of their mind and their body into the game. But there have been so many chemistry issues circling around the Pacers throughout the entire year and health problems that I think they could use the offseason. They didn't get an offseason really. They got like a good 70, 80 games, but they need an offseason to relax, man. TJ Warren he's not playing, but he basically came out, or a report came out and said that as soon as Nate Bjorken was hired as head coach, he wanted to be traded. Nate Bjorken has also had problems with the rest of the staff and the rest of the players. Not necessarily all of them, but individually there have been instances. So I don't think the Pacers are going to show up and play. I think the Hornets will get that pretty convincingly. Celtics, Wizards, I think the Wizards are going to win. And not only that, but I think they're going to give the Sixers a little bit of a run for their money. Maybe it can only be 5 games or 6 games, but they'll be competitive. The Celtics just don't have the weapons that they did a couple years ago off the bench per se. Evan Fournier isn't going to do enough. Luke Cornett starting at center is always a problem, unless Robert Williams gets back into the lineup. But I think it's going to be pretty convincing both ways. It's going to be the Wizards as the 7th seed, and then it's also going to be the Hornets as the 8th seed. They're going to beat the Celtics. I really don't believe in the Celtics right now, especially without Jaylen Brown.
Okay, so just to clarify a little bit there, you said the Wizards would be the 7th seed and they would give the Sixers a run for their money. You meant the Nets?
Yes, I meant the Nets.
7 versus 2. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so those are some bold predictions because you're seeing the Hornets at the 10th spot move up to 8, winning 2 games in a row. That's definitely a fun thing to watch. LaMelo making the playoffs his rookie year, Gordon Hayward against his former team. That would be another story, and Terry Rozier as well. So I like that prediction. Edward, what do you see happening in the West with regards to Celtics, Wizards, and then Pacers, Hornets?
Yeah, sorry. So I think you said the West accidentally, but yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you look at this cow, and without Jaylen Brown, yeah, the Celtics are not the same. And I think that's the reason why they've been so successful. And whoever said to trade Jaylen Brown is ridiculous. Whoever reported that, I think that's stupid ridiculous. You see how like Jaylen Brown right now not even playing, and guess what? Like the Celtics in the playing tournament. Yeah, I think the Wizards going to beat the Celtics because I mean Russell Westbrook is on a monster tour right now, and I think he could be in the mention of the MVP race. I mean, he carried that Wizard team pretty much, and I mean, of course, Bradley Beal, but but you could say like Russell Westbrook been there. And yeah, I would say the same thing with the Hornets and the Pacers. The Pacers, yeah, with those reports, I was kind of surprised. Yeah, I was like, oh yeah, where's TJ Warren? Like, I haven't really noticed it, but yeah, the chemistry issue, which I'm pretty sure, like in the offseason, probably will fire the head coach. Maybe try to get I don't know some assistant coaches from like different teams, and then maybe they could get Jason Kidd. Maybe I don't know because I think Jason Kidd is trying to look for a head coaching job. Uh, yeah, and I think the Hornets, even though they're in a pretty bad losing streak, um, they played against like tough opponents. Yeah, so like uh, I think they're gonna beat the Pacers. So the Wizards are going to play the Nets. That's going to be interesting. How like the Nets, how they're going to contain Russell. It's going to be interesting. And then Celtics versus Hornets. I think the Hornets will this time will upset like the Celtics again, unless like Jason Tatum go on like a career scoring points. So yeah, I agree with what Gabe said.
Okay, so just to make sure, both of you have the Washington Wizards as the 7th seed and the Charlotte Hornets as the 8th seed making the playoffs, and that would mean that the Boston Celtics do not even make the playoffs. They get knocked out of this play-in because they haven't been playing very well as of recent. In terms of my predictions, I think I will go with the Boston Celtics at the 8th seed and the Washington Wizards at the 7th seed. So I think I have a similar prediction in that the Wizards will defeat the Celtics in the first game, but I think the Celtics will have enough experience to beat a Hornets team or a Pacers team. I'm not really sure which one will win, but I'm leaning Hornets as well. Rooting for LaMelo to get to at least a second game in the play-in. But yeah, I think Jason Tatum will have a big game, and I think Marcus Smart can definitely have some intensity brought to the middle of that game and really wreck the Hornets' aspirations. So I think the Celtics will become the 8th seed. The Celtics will play the Philadelphia 76ers, get bounced out the first round by the 76ers, and then Washington Wizards versus Brooklyn Nets. That will be an enticing matchup. It'll be fun to watch, but ultimately I also think the Nets will advance in that round. But we'll get to some NBA playoff predictions later. Thank you for each of your play-in predictions, and we will see you soon with the end of season awards that we're having. If you like this video, please consider subscribing to our channel, the M2M Network, for more sports and entertainment content.